Hey man, one of the defining marks of a strong man is his silence in the face of female pressure. Weak men explain, weak men justify, weak men scramble to prove that their choices are valid, that their actions are reasonable, that their decisions deserve approval. But a strong man never explains himself to a woman, because explanation itself is submission. When you explain, you are not standing in your frame, you are trying to fit into hers. You are telling her that your reality is negotiable, that your choices are open to debate, that her emotions get to decide whether your actions were right or wrong. And that, brother, is the death of masculine authority. The moment you start explaining yourself to a woman, you hand her the power to approve or disapprove of you. And the moment you do that, you lose the respect you are trying to earn. Understand this, women don't want explanations, they want leadership. A woman may ask why you did something, but her respect for you is never in your words, it's in your energy. If you stand solid, calm, and unshaken, she feels secure. If you bend, justify, and scramble for her approval, she feels disgust. She'll say she wants honesty, she'll say she wants communication, but what she really wants is certainty. And certainty never explains itself, it simply is. That's why the men women lust after, the men they chase, the men they cannot forget, are not the ones who explain themselves into her good graces. They are the ones who simply did what they decided, stood by it, and never asked permission for it. Their silence was louder than any justification could ever be. Women test you with questions, not to get the truth, but to see your strength. She'll ask where you were, what you were doing, why you made that choice, why you didn't respond right away. These aren't questions for clarity, they're questions for power. And every time you answer with long explanations, every time you scramble to defend yourself, every time you turn her test into a courtroom, you lose. Because you've just proven that you see yourself as accountable to her emotions rather than to your mission. Strong men know this. They don't play defense in the game of attraction. They don't waste breath justifying their existence. They stand firm in their frame, and if she can't handle it, she can leave. And paradoxically, that's what makes her stay. This is why women lose respect for men who over-explain. A man thinks that by pouring out every detail, by proving his innocence, by making her understand, he'll gain her trust. But in reality, all he gains is her contempt, because his need to explain exposes his weakness. It shows he fears losing her more than he fears losing himself. Women don't respect that. They respect the man who fears nothing, not even her leaving. And that's why strong men never explain. Their silence is not arrogance, it's certainty. It's a declaration that their choices are final, that their actions are rooted in their mission, not in her emotions. And that, brother, is the very energy that keeps her drawn to him, even when she claims she wants explanations. And here's the paradox. When you stop explaining, women start chasing explanations. They'll ask more, they'll test harder, they'll probe deeper. Why? Because your silence creates mystery. It forces her to imagine, to wonder, to feel uncertainty. And uncertainty is the fuel of attraction. A man who explains himself kills the mystery, he lays everything bare, and in doing so kills her desire. But a man who holds his tongue, who gives her nothing but calm presence, keeps her invested. She's addicted to figuring him out, addicted to the puzzle he represents, and that addiction is far more powerful than any words you could ever give her. Strong men know this. They understand that their silence is not weakness, but a weapon that commands respect, ignites desire, and protects their frame from being hijacked by female emotion. The reason explaining yourself destroys polarity is because it flips the roles upside down. In the natural order of attraction, the man leads and the woman follows. The man creates the direction, the frame, the vision, and the woman chooses to align with it or leave. But when a man starts explaining, when he begins justifying every action, he places himself beneath her. He is no longer the leader, he is the follower, scrambling to reassure her that his path is worthy. And women cannot feel desire for a man they feel is beneath them. They may stay for comfort, for security, for convenience, but the fire dies the moment she senses she is leading emotionally. Strong men never explain, because they know their silence protects polarity. It keeps the structure intact, man leading, woman choosing, and when that polarity holds, attraction thrives. This is why women test endlessly. When she asks you, why didn't you call? She isn't looking for the logistics, she's looking for your reaction. If you stumble, apologize, over-explain, and beg for forgiveness, she knows she has power. She knows your frame bends to her emotions, But if you stay calm, give her nothing, or even flip it back on her, she feels something deeper. She feels that you are untouchable. She realizes that no matter what storm she tries to stir, you remain steady. And that steadiness is magnetic. It's not about what you say, it's about what you refuse to say. Every time you withhold explanation, you remind her that her emotions do not dictate your reality. And that truth keeps her both frustrated and addicted, because she cannot control you, and that very lack of control keeps her invested. Let's break this down further. Women live in emotions, men live in principles. When you start explaining yourself, you are trying to use principles to calm emotions, and that never works. You can tell her every detail, show her every fact, walk her through every step, but if she doesn't feel satisfied, none of it matters. And the more you explain, the more she digs, because your words don't calm her, they feed her suspicion. Explaining puts you in a loop where you're constantly trying to prove yourself to someone who doesn't care about facts. Strong men know this, and that's why they don't bother. They understand that no amount of explanation can override emotion. Instead, they lead with presence, with calmness, with certainty. They don't try to argue with her feelings. They let her feelings move like waves around the rock of their silence. That's how polarity remains intact. This is why silence feels like power. Because when you refuse to explain, you force her to deal with her own emotions instead of outsourcing them onto you. You're not trying to fix her feelings. You're not trying to calm her storm. You're showing her that her emotions are hers to handle. And whether she admits it or not, women respect this. They may cry louder, they may push harder, they may throw more tests, but deep down, they crave the man who won't bend, because bending makes them feel unsafe. Only a man who stands firm in his reality creates true security for a woman. Explanations erode that security. Silence enforces it. That's why the men women stay addicted to, or the ones who give them nothing but mystery, calmness, and decisive action. And here's the bitter truth. When you explain, you reveal weakness, you reveal fear, you reveal that you value her approval more than your own conviction. And once she senses that, respect evaporates. She may still play along, she may still say she loves you, but deep inside, she no longer sees you as a man to be followed. She sees you as a man to be managed. And once you've been downgraded in her eyes, it's only a matter of time before desire fades and resentment grows. Strong men know this. They never put themselves in a position to be managed. They make decisions, they stand by them, and they let their actions speak louder than any words ever could. Silence isn't stubbornness, it's strength. It's the quiet confidence of a man who knows he doesn't need to explain his reality to anyone, least of all to a woman trying to test his frame. Mystery is a weapon most men don't know how to wield. When you over-explain, you kill it instantly. You hand her the full blueprint of your mind, your choices, your movements, and in doing so, you strip yourself of intrigue. Women thrive on imagination. They're addicted to wondering, to filling in the gaps, to questioning what a man might be thinking. That uncertainty fuels her attraction. But when you explain yourself, you erase the unknown. You give her certainty in a place where she secretly craves suspense. Strong men understand that silence isn't emptiness, it's mystery. By holding back, by saying less, they create a tension that women can't resist. She starts obsessing, analyzing, replaying his actions, because she doesn't have the comfort of knowing everything, and that obsession keeps her hooked far more than any words ever could. This is why strong men are unforgettable. It's not always their looks, their money, or even their status. It's the way they carry themselves without feeling the need to explain. Every man can talk, every man can defend himself, but very few can stand silent, grounded, and unbothered in the face of questions. That's what separates leaders from followers. The man who doesn't explain communicates something deeper. He is secure in who he is. He doesn't need validation. He doesn't need agreement. He doesn't need approval. And that energy, brother, is magnetic. Women may roll their eyes, they may act frustrated, they may even accuse him of being stubborn, but deep down, they are drawn to that strength because it signals what they're truly craving, a man who cannot be moved. Now, don't mistake this. Silence doesn't mean weakness. A weak man stays silent because he's afraid to speak. A strong man stays silent because he doesn't need to speak. His presence, his choices, his actions already carry the weight of authority. The difference is in the energy. Women can sense it instantly. They know whether your silence is coming from fear or from certainty. That's why building yourself as a man matters. You can't fake this kind of confidence. You must be grounded in your mission, your vision, your purpose. When you have that, you no longer feel the urge to justify yourself. You move in alignment with your truth, and anyone who doesn't align with it simply falls away. That's the essence of masculine authority, living so fully in your reality that you no longer need to explain it to anyone. When you stop explaining, something powerful happens. You force her to face herself. You're no longer the distraction, no longer the scapegoat, no longer the target of blame. She's left alone with her emotions, her thoughts, her insecurities, and that's uncomfortable for her. Most women would rather have you scrambling, defending, explaining, because it takes the spotlight off them. But when you remain silent, she's forced to confront her own chaos. And as much as she may resist it, she respects it, because deep down, she knows she needs a man who doesn't feed her illusions, but grounds her in reality. Your silence becomes a mirror, reflecting her emotions back at her, showing her that you are not there to carry them, but to stand firm while she sorts them out. And that, brother, is the foundation of respect. And here's where the paradox bites hardest. When you stop explaining, women call you cold, mysterious, difficult, even toxic. They'll accuse you of being stubborn or emotionally unavailable, but their actions betray the truth. They don't leave, they stay, they chase, they obsess. Because while your silence frustrates them, it also excites them. It separates you from the herd of men who explain themselves into the ground, who beg for approval, who crumble under pressure. Your refusal to explain signals strength in a world where strength is rare, and women are magnetized to that strength, even if they don't admit it. They can call it what they want, but the truth is simple. They respect what they cannot control, and no matter what words they throw at you, respect is always stronger than comfort. When a man explains himself constantly, he doesn't realize the subtle message he's sending, that his reality is negotiable. He's telling her, without saying it outright, that if she pushes hard enough, he will bend, he will adjust, he will reframe his choices to suit her emotions. That destroys masculine authority. The strongest men understand that their decisions stand on their own legs. They don't need to be dressed up with explanations. The more you explain, the more you place her in the judge's seat and yourself in the defendant's chair. And once you're on trial in her mind, you've already lost, because you've admitted that her approval is more important than your conviction. Women are far more attracted to certainty than to correctness. You can explain every reason why you made a decision. You can logically prove that your choice was right. But if you do it nervously, if you do it with the energy of needing her validation, she'll lose respect for you. On the other hand, a man can make a decision that she doesn't fully understand, and if he stands by it calmly and firmly, she will feel safe, even if she argues in the moment. Safety is not built on endless explanations, it's built on unshakable certainty. When you stop explaining, you force her to feel that certainty, whether she wants to or not. This is also why mystery is such a powerful force in attraction. A man who explains himself gives her a full map of his mind, leaving nothing to wonder about. But a man who doesn't explain leaves her with questions, and questions create obsession. She starts filling in the gaps, imagining the reasons, projecting her own fantasies onto him. That projection is what keeps her hooked, because her mind can't let go of what it doesn't fully understand. Men who over-explain lose this advantage. They satisfy her curiosity too quickly, and once curiosity is gone, desire begins to fade. The men who remain unforgettable are the ones who never gave her full access to their reasoning, who left enough space for her imagination to work overtime. Silence also communicates dominance in a way words never can. When she pushes, tests, and questions you, and you remain calm and unmoved, you send a message without saying anything. I am not under your control. That message is more powerful than any explanation could ever be. Explanations try to win her approval. Silence forces her to confront your authority. And though she may protest, though she may call it arrogance, deep down she respects it, because it proves you are grounded in something larger than her emotions. You are grounded in yourself. A man who cannot be rattled earns respect far quicker than a man who tries to talk his way into it. Many men don't realize that over-explaining is actually a form of weakness, disguised as openness. They think they're building trust by sharing every detail, but what they're really doing is begging for acceptance, and women can smell that energy instantly. They know when a man is speaking from confidence and when he's speaking from fear. Fearful men talk too much, confident men say little. The ones who are remembered, desired, and respected are those who let their actions speak louder than their words. They know that explaining is not leading, explaining is defending, and strong men don't defend, they decide. Explanations often act as an apology in disguise, and that's why they weaken you. When you're justifying your decisions to a woman, even if you're trying to be logical, the energy underneath often says, "Please understand me. Please don't be upset with me. Please don't leave me." That energy is needy, and neediness kills attraction faster than anything else. A strong man doesn't care if she understands him. He knows his decisions were made with clarity and intention. If she chooses to misunderstand, that's her problem, not his. And paradoxically, the less he seeks her understanding, the more she's drawn to seek his approval. His lack of explanation flips the dynamic. Suddenly, she's the one trying to prove herself to him, instead of the other way around. A woman's respect isn't earned by how much sense you make, it's earned by how unshakable you are when challenged. Men forget this because they confuse logic with leadership. They think that if they can present a flawless case, she will admire them. But admiration doesn't come from perfect words, it comes from presence. You can stumble on your words, you can be blunt, you can even say very little at all and still command deep respect if your energy is steady. On the other hand, you can present the most rational, perfectly articulated explanation, and she will still feel unimpressed if you delivered it with nervousness. Respect has nothing to do with your reasoning, it has everything to do with your certainty. When a man refuses to explain himself, he also filters the type of women who can even stand beside him. Weak women, women addicted to control, women who crave emotional dominance, they'll run. They can't tolerate a man who won't bend to their constant questioning. But women who crave strength, who seek a man they can actually look up to, are magnetized by that silence. They know it means they can't manipulate him, and while that frustrates them, it also comforts them, because a man who doesn't explain himself is a man who can lead himself, and by extension, lead her. His silence becomes a filter, separating those who only wanted control from those who actually want partnership. The men who master this truth find life far easier. They no longer get trapped in endless arguments. They no longer waste energy trying to be understood. They no longer sacrifice their peace to soothe temporary emotions. Instead, they conserve their strength. They make decisions, they stand by them, and they let time prove them right. And time always does. Women may complain, question, or even resist in the moment, but later they remember one thing: he never wavered. That memory sticks deeper than any explanation ever could. A man's silence echoes louder than his words, and it stays long after the conversation is over. This is why strong men never explain themselves to women, because explanation kills respect, destroys mystery, and places her emotions above his mission. Silence, on the other hand, communicates certainty, creates attraction, and keeps him in control of his own frame. Explaining is for men who need permission. Silence is for men who already decided. The strongest men know that women don't truly want every answer. They want the feeling of security that comes from a man who doesn't need to answer at all. That is the essence of masculine power. Not to convince, not to defend, but to stand unshaken. And the man who masters this never has to raise his voice, never has to beg for respect, never has to explain his worth, because his presence says everything for him.